Hi, I'm your host, Becky Davis, and this is Garden Wise, Santa Barbara's most informative show about sustainable landscaping. As the drought continues, water is becoming more valuable than ever, which is why learning to conserve is an absolute necessity. To help, cities all over the county are actually giving money to residents to be more water wise. Up next, we'll tell you how you can get in on the deal.
This was mostly grass, about 3/4 acres of grass, and that was about it.
Like many residents in Santa Barbara County, Dorothy and her husband David had a large stretch of lawn in their backyard, but they weren't aware of how much water it was using.
We started going to the meetings about the problem that Solvang has with water, and then we saw some charts of the residents, what amount of water they were using, and we realized that we were one of the top residential users in the city, and we knew that we had to do something.
That's when they learned about Solvang's landscape rebate program, one of many rebates offered throughout the county.
You can get up to $1,000, and you have to use it for plans or supplies, plants, bark. You cannot use it for any labor. So we decided to use the money and get a professional to draw up some plans for us. My husband wanted a dry creek bed. That's one thing he mentioned to her. And then she brought up some ideas about maybe doing a path and a bridge, and it all sounded really nice to us. We really like all these beautiful plants. She used some wonderful colors. We have pinks and lavenders and blues, which is our favorite color. When the wind blows, these plants shimmer in the wind. Our gardener has very minimal upkeep here so far. He's probably, I wouldn't say, spending more than 15 minutes a week on this area. So it's saving us a lot of money on gardening, and our water usage is down 60% overall.
Drastically cutting their water usage is only one of the many benefits David and Dorothy have experienced through participating in the rebate program.
I think that the rebate is a good thing. It gets you motivated to do something. It was difficult for us to think about giving up the grass, but we're not unhappy now. We think this is even more beautiful than the grass. And of course, we always have a lot of gophers, and now we don't have the gophers. They don't even want to come here, so it's a win-win. We certainly know that we have a problem in this city, and it gets kind of scary. And I go around and I see all these dead lawns, and it's pretty sad. And you can do things with a very minimum cost and do it yourself.
Next, we traveled south to learn about Goleta's landscape rebate program and see how one resident transformed her landscape from a dead lawn to a colorful, water-wise garden.
I had this huge lawn in front, and I told my husband, you know what, we should get off the lawn. He said, no, I love grass. And I kept working on him, and as one day I said, somebody told me, my friend actually, that, they have a program from the Goleta Water District that you could get a rebate and help you out with doing the landscape. So I called them, and that time they didn't have the funds. They ran out, and so I said, okay, I'll just get the grass out. So I went and got the grass out and waited to kill the grass for months and months. And then finally, when I was debating what to do, checking online, checking all the designs and things, I got a call. And that was the best thing happened. It actually accelerated my thinking and doing it.
Goleta's rebate program covers 50% of the cost of irrigation equipment and landscape materials, up to $1,000 for single-family residents and $2,000 for commercial properties.
They have guidelines for if you're doing stones and gravel, they'll pay half of that. They'll pay all the plants that you put in. That's also half of that. And then also drip system. And they will also even pay for the timer if you need to put in to turn it on automatically. So yeah, they cover a lot of these different things, which are the main things in landscape.
The rebate will even cover a portion of pre-approved design costs, but that wasn't necessary for Vandana.
Didn't hire anybody. It was all my design, but I have been, every time I drive, I look at everybody's front yard, and it's been years. It's just because I wanted to do something very unique. And I will go online and go on landscape designs, and I'll check. And I love colors. Vibrant, the better for me. And so that was my first thing was research. I said to myself, okay, I want flowers, but how do I do it without having so much to water when we are in such a severe drought? So I went online and researched on water-wise plants which bloom. So also, while I'm driving, if someplace I see a beautiful plant, I'll take a picture of the flower. I come home and research on it. How to take care of it, how much water it takes. Whenever they say regular water, I say, okay, that is not the plant for me. And that's where I came down to also, I didn't just do for also the water-wise flowers, I had to also look which gophers, which I have the very big problem here, that they will spare my plants. So that's what I was looking, and also the least maintenance. That was also another thing on my list.
Not only were Vandana and her husband using over twice as much water with their lawn, but the time spent maintaining it was drastically higher as well.
First thing is the mowing the lawn, which I think it was like once a week for sure. You have to mow it, otherwise start looking. The weeding, that so many weeds come there, so you have to worry about that part. And then watering twice a week, and half an hour at least to soak the water in, otherwise they look really bad. And then top of that, if the gophers dig it, it shows right there, the hole. So now my water bill is cut in more than half actually. I had water very little. Again, they're drought tolerant plants. Even you can kill the plants here if you water too much, the plants I have. So I water maybe twice a week, maybe sometimes I water even once a week for 5-10 minutes. I turn the drip system on, and that's all I do. And other maintenance is only that had the flowers. That's all you have to do.
Rebate participants aren't the only ones who get to enjoy the benefits of a water-wise garden.
I have so many neighbors and people drive by, they even knock at my door and they say, you have done an amazing job, it's so beautiful. And it's also gives pleasure to other people who are walking by here. So yes, it is true, it is very unique, it stands out. On top of it, it looks so pretty that gives you the pleasure. I had my sister-in-law visiting from San Jose, and she went home and she called me, she said, you inspired me, I am doing my whole front yard and the backyard, could you help me pick the flower plants and draw the plants? So even in San Jose, she's doing it.
And you can too. Whether you hire a professional or do it yourself, start thinking about how you can make your landscape more water-wise and apply for your local rebate before it runs out.
First, you should go online and see. There are beautiful flowers and designs you can do it. Secondly, they have such a great rebate plan. Program with the city. Why don't you take advantage of it? Create something. If you like the colors, which is going to last forever, you don't have to worry about it. If the drought came again, you couldn't water it. And that will happen in California. This is not the last drought we are going to have it. So I would say absolutely look into it and create something which you really enjoy looking every day. That's all. It's all my personal. I really enjoy. I can stand here and watch my garden for hours, and it gives me such a pleasure.
To find out if your city has a rebate program, visit waterwisesb.org/rebates. There are plenty of people that want to have a beautiful waterwise garden but don't know where to begin. If that's you, then you're in luck. Up next, we take an inside look at the design process for a local landscape designer to give you some ideas.
Hi, I'm Joan Bolton. I'm a local garden designer. I specialize in designing colorful water-conserving gardens. I've been in business for just over 20 years, and I'd like to show you a garden that I recently did that exemplifies a lot of the different concepts I like to incorporate in people's gardens. So when I first met with my clients, this was entirely kikuyu grass, just a straight, flat lawn. There were a little bit of shrubs on the far side, and they had a few shrubs against the house, but basically it was just flat. What they wanted to do was create some topography, create some interest. They love hummingbirds, and so we definitely wanted to include habitat for birds as well as beneficial insects and butterflies. And also they wanted to emphasize water conservation. They were tired, they've been in the house for more than 40 years, and they were tired of pouring all their water into their lawn and just having this flat appearance. So when I first meet with my clients, one of the first things I do is talk to them about how they'd like to use the space, and then I always try to figure out how they're going to get to those spaces. In this garden, their only entrance to the front door was across their driveway, scooching around the cars, cutting around a sharp corner, and heading down a narrow pathway to the front. So one of the first things I did was say, okay, we need a new entrance. And over here what we've done is we've done these landing pads, small one for the mailbox, much larger one for the spot where we identified. We actually parked a car out here to make sure that we knew where people were going to park, did this 8-foot wide landing strip, and then over here we created this entirely new beautiful entrance. Wandering its way, we created topography. We did mounds and contoured the soil so that instead of a flat space, there's a lot of interest. We did the bridge over the dry creek bed that I'll talk about in just a minute. And then we curved back over to that entrance to the front door. But what we also did is we widened the pathway. We took the same flagstone that we have in these new paths and did an edging along the pathway to the front door so that they had a wider space to walk on. If you come this way, what we've done is you can see that the bridge is actually over a dry stream bed. What we've done is with the main downspouts for the house, we put in new gutters on the house, and the one on the front right as well as the one on the garage, those gutters feed into this dry stream bed, and it's contoured so that what happens is it keeps the water on site. Will this ever flow in a heavy rainstorm? We don't know because we haven't had that weather yet. But the idea is that the water is collected off the roof, it comes into the dry stream bed and it slows it down. Then it spreads it out into the adjoining soil where it provides extra deep moisture for the plants in the garden, so sort of a long-lasting reservoir. Eventually it should percolate, if there's anything left, down into the groundwater basin, and it doesn't go out to the street, out to the ocean. One of my main underlying philosophies about being a designer is providing a diversity of plants. I'm a real plant nut, but the thing about it in the garden is that by providing a diversity of plants, you're providing seasonal interest year-round for not only the client, the neighbors, everyone who comes by, but also for the wildlife that inhabits the space. In this garden, what I'm doing is a combination of Mediterranean plants, native plants, and succulents, all of which provide that year-round buffet to everyone. This plant over here on my right is one of the many beautiful sages that we can grow here. This is one called Amistad. It is a huge hummingbird magnet and bee magnet, and tiny little, if you get up close with a microscope, tiny little insects are working their way through too. Not pests, but the good guys. Some of the native plants that I selected for this landscape include Centennial Ceanothus. It's this extremely low-growing, all-green, evergreen ground cover. Gets real cute little blue flowers in the spring. And after the second year, you take off the irrigation. It just survives on the natural water alone, natural rainfall, and the moisture that's kind of left over in the soil. On the tall end of the scale, up above me, this is a western redbud. It will get maybe about 15 feet tall, 15 feet across, and it does lose its leaves. It's deciduous, but in the springtime, just as the leaves are emerging, it gets these big, beautiful magenta flowers. Looks a lot like a fruit tree, where they have the flowers emerging just as the leaves are emerging as well. Another fun native is monkey flower. This is one of the hybrids, and they come in all sorts of different colors. They come in pink and yellow and burgundy and white. This one is sort of sort of a pale burgundy in a way. And the nice thing about these is they bloom just about all year. They're kind of sticky. One of the common names is sticky monkey flower, and so when you touch it, it's a little stinky, but it just keeps blooming. It's a great bloomer even in the heat. The last native I'd like to show you is coral bells. This particular one isn't blooming right now, but it sends up these beautiful wands of very dark red flowers that are tiny little flowers. Beautiful foliage year-round, almost looks like an old-fashioned piggyback plant. And again, a very low water plant, likes anything from dry shade on up to a fair amount of sun. So thanks for going on this tour with me. Hopefully we've been able to provide you with some inspiration for your own garden. If you need any more tips or techniques, you're welcome to give me a call. Otherwise, I wish you luck with your Waterwise garden and happy gardening.
For even more ideas on how to transform your landscape, visit waterwisesb.org. We'll be right back with more Garden Wise.
I added mulch to my trees and plants.
I put in a Laundry to Landscape gray water system to irrigate my fruit trees.
I removed my lawn and planted Waterwise native plants and installed drip irrigation.
I stopped watering my lawn.
Do your part by saving water in your garden. Get a free water checkup from your water provider. Keep saving water, Santa Barbara County.
Meet the most fascinating man in the world. When droughts happen, water experts go to him for water-saving actions. His front lawn requires no water because he replaced it with Waterwise plants. He only works 2 days a week, and so do his sprinklers. He uses so little water, overwatered plants seek refuge in his yard.
I know a lot about saving water, but when I want to know more, I go to waterwisesb.org. Let's save together, my friends.
Welcome back. A local organization has been hosting a series of events to help equip and educate residents to make water-wise changes to their landscapes. In our next segment, we join Sweetwater Collaborative on their WaterWise walking tour to find out how they're teaching people to save water and still have thriving gardens.
Sweetwater Collaborative is a nonprofit organization committed to re-landscaping Santa Barbara and bringing WaterWise education to the community.
One of our sayings is that we want to help teach people to live well with the water we have. So we really think it's important to not feel like you're sacrificing, but also to really be respectful of the water that we have and where we are and have our sense of place. So we do hands-on community workshops where we help put sustainable systems into different people's homes.
The purpose of the walking tour was to showcase landscapes in Santa Barbara that have developed unique WaterWise features.
Today we're in the Samarkand neighborhood, and we're showcasing gray water systems and lawn conversions to beautiful native gardens. And there's one site that has buffalo grass that's actually been there for a while, a couple of years. And we have some rain tanks that we've put in and different kinds of rain catchment, rain gardens, and ways of diverting water from the roof into the soil to create rich soil sponge. So it's just, lots of fruit trees, just lots of wonderful things.
As soon as I saw the description, I immediately signed up. I mean, all the elements of learning about gray water, recycling, WaterWise gardens, food forests, everything appealed to me. I'm trying to create all of those systems in my home at this time, so very relevant.
The tour began at the home of Bruce and Michelle Kendall, two residents who are committed to saving water.
The reason we especially came to my house today was because we have a buffalo grass lawn. It's developed by the University of California. It's called UC Verde, and it's an incredibly low water lawn. It requires only about 1.5 inches of water a month, which is about 1/3 the amount of water that a traditional lawn requires. And there aren't that many of them in Santa Barbara, so we really wanted to let people see it, and if a lot of people chose this, it would end up saving a lot of water.
Not only did they replace their existing lawn, they also shrunk it down in size to make room for 16 fruit trees and a native plant garden.
So there was a regular fescue lawn here before. It was 1,200 square feet, and we shrank the lawn down to about 1,000 square feet. And if I was doing it again today, I would probably even shrink it smaller, but we did this 2 years ago, so the lawn is 2 years old. It's a good option. It's fairly hardy, and you can have kids and dogs run around on it. It's very fine and soft. It's really beautiful.
From maintenance to fertilization, there are many great reasons to choose an alternative lawn.
So maintenance is wonderful because the lawn only needs to be mowed once or twice a year. The only time you really need to mow it is in January, the end of January. It does go dormant just a tiny bit here in coastal California for maybe a month. It turns a nice straw color. It's still really beautiful and soft. It's just not a lush green. There's much less mowing. Because it's a native grass, you can have very infrequent fertilize and uses a fraction of the fertilizer of a regular lawn. And the water savings. So there's just so many reasons to plant it. The other reason that wasn't really applicable for us, but it is a seedless, sterile lawn. So if you have allergies, it's actually an excellent option for people who have allergies.
And that wasn't the only WaterWise feature at their home worth taking a look at.
The other thing we have is water spouts that direct water into our landscape and into rain tanks. So we have 2 rain tanks that are total 800 gallons. And then we've got downspouts in the front of the house that direct the water into the soil, into basins that try to capture the water. So for a low rain year, you want to capture every drop you can, and it keeps that water on the property. So we have a 1,500 square foot roof, and because 1 inch of water on a 1,000 square foot roof generates 600 gallons of water, so that means that we get 900 gallons from our roof for every inch of rain. So this past year, when we got 10 inches of rain, we generated about 9,000 gallons of rainwater that we captured on our property. And basically our property had absolutely no runoff this year because we really needed every drop.
Over the course of the afternoon, attendees took to the streets to visit a total of 4 properties, each showcasing something different.
At the first house, the buffalo grass, never seen that before. That's a perfect solution for my front lawn. So I was thrilled. I could have left after that. And then the gray water concepts. We're doing that a little bit bootlegged right now. So learned a few things that probably we should look into. So very, very educational. I haven't been a house that didn't offer something that I'll really take home with me.
The overall goal of each of Sweetwater Collaborative's events is to show the community that having a landscape that's both beautiful and water efficient is possible.
I want people to see how much is possible and what a variety is of things that are possible, and how being water wise, first of all, can be beautiful, can be functional, can really work. Some of the people are quoting how much water savings they have, but also that there's just so much possibility, so that they don't have to feel like it only has to look one way or be one way, and that we can really re-landscape Santa Barbara and make it a place that we still love and maybe even love more.
For more information about attending one of Sweetwater Collaborative's events, visit sweetwatercollaborative.org. Now that you have some ideas for your landscape, let's talk about what plants to use. Santa Barbara County has a number of great nurseries that have a wide selection of drought-tolerant and native plants. We recently talked to two of them to find out what they offer.
Hi, I'm Bob from Windmill Nursery here in Buellton. I've had this nursery here, Windmill Nursery, for the last 35 years. We've been selling a lot of drought-tolerant plants, and I'm here to talk to you about it today. It's interesting, we get a lot of inquiries about drought-tolerant natives all the time. We find that we can plant plants from many other regions in the world that are also climatically the same as us, such as areas from the Mediterranean, Australia, South America, Africa. And they mix well, they blend well with our native plants. Here we have a plant, this is from northern Mexico, beautiful summertime bloomer that attracts hummingbirds. It's not just about drought-tolerant plants, it's all about hummingbirds and butterflies and pollinators too. Everybody wants to save the bees. So here we're selling this side by side with English lavender. English lavender will start blooming up here in the next month. And also a Mediterranean plant called rock rose. This one's called Cistus sunset, and mounds up to about 3 foot or so, 4 foot wide. And we have it planted with manzanitas and other California natives, and performing just fine. Spanish lavender is one of my favorites. It's not your typical English lavender style, but it blooms from very early on in the year, and if you cut it back, you'll get successive blooms on it. Again, attracting bees like crazy. Here we have a great native plant. This is called monkey flower. And this is an interesting one because this is a hybrid with of one of our native species. The native species is usually kind of a dull orange color, whereas we have these are the jelly bean series, and we can get them in bright reds, brighter oranges, yellows. And now I'm going to show you the manzanitas. We have manzanitas that have all different styles, from ground cover types to medium growing kinds. This kind here grows 10 foot to 15 foot, at least, depending on cultural factors and everything. It'll live a long time. But all the manzanitas do have the red trunks, regardless of the size of the leaves. Here we have another one. This is another type of manzanita, and usually when I go to show people this kind of manzanita, they look at it and they go, oh, that's not a manzanita. It doesn't have that characteristic big leaf. But these are great for the garden because they fit the garden really well. This is a variety called Sentinel and grows to be about 5 foot tall. And in the spring you'll get lightish pink flowers all over it in clusters. And when they're in bloom, they're incredible. Most of the plants here are pretty much out of bloom right now, as most natives are. However, these will still at least look good during the summer. So these are great plants for your garden. Thank you for coming to Windmill Nursery. I'm glad I had a chance to show you around today. It's nice to know you don't have to sacrifice color for drought tolerance. You can still do a beautiful, low water landscape and still have beautiful color in it. So come to Windmill Nursery. We have a great selection and we'd love to have you.
Next, we headed to Carpinteria to visit another local nursery.
Good morning, my name is Jose Monzo. I work here at Seaside Gardens where we have a lot of very drought-tolerant plants. We like to show things from not only our California natives, but plants that accompany that. I did pick out 3, I think, that are not only my favorite, but also some very tough and pretty much usable plants for people along the coast here in general that are very easy to grow. Once you get these plants established, they become almost bulletproof, where you just don't need a heck of a lot of maintenance behind it. You know, we try to show stuff that definitely requires very little watering, very little maintenance, no spraying, and very little feeding at all. Most people, when you tell that, they think we're kind of nuts, you know, because they're so trained to water the most and feed the most, and, you know, during the hottest times of the year. But if you got plants that come from areas that don't have water, these are the kinds of things you want to get established. The first one I want to show is the salt bush. Reason being, or quail bush is another common name for it. The reason I really kind of picked this one out, this is a really versatile plant. All the way from, takes the salt air and salt wind, all the way up into the mountains. Sun or shade, it doesn't really matter. The other plus benefit is, because most of us live in a fire zone, this is one that's pretty fire retardant. It will not go up in flames and will just come back right again. Salvias tend to be another one of the families really neat, especially our native salvias. This is a kind of really neat variety called Deer Springs. The reason I like this one is not only is the foliage very fragrant, the flower is really interesting too. And it tends to flower for us a lot longer here along the coast because, again, we really don't know what hot and cold is. So these plants are very happy, so just as happy as we are. Most of these things, again, it's kind of really difficult to see what this true little ugly duckling is going to look like. But eventually it's just a beautiful 3x3 plant, just solid pretty much all year round and very low maintenance once established. Another one is I kind of picked out, it's called a little Angelita daisy. It's one of our California natives that just looks like this all year round. Never stops really blooming, very easy to grow. The only problem is most of these plants is most people tend to kill with kindness. They tend to water it just like everything else, but again, once you get them established, it's pretty much, the majority are walk-away plants. You just kind of enjoy them, trim them a little bit here and there, and then off you go. What's really neat about our place and really unique is because most people don't really get to see what this thing really is going to grow up to. So we have a full-on demonstration garden of just California natives alone all by itself. You can go out there and we'll see how big it gets, where it's growing, where the sun or shade, and you can also see kind of the maintenance on these plants. We'll head back toward the garden right now and show you a few things out and point some really fun stuff for you. So now we're approaching our California natives. Again, here we're trying to show examples of stuff that's, I guess, more apt to fit for most people's backyards. Here you can come and see how big it gets, what it looks like. And again, trying to show just more manageable plants for most people's backyards. Evergreen, so you can see, you know, have something all in around. I mean, and manzanitas tends to be one of the really neat ones. You'll see also coffee berries, a lot of different ceanothus, which is very hardy. And again, here you can really get the true aspect of their growing habits compared to that little container that's sitting over there on my bench. Now you can see when they're going to bloom, what colors they're looking. Again, texture, motion, foliage, a lot of really neat things. You get yarrows that are super easy to grow. I mean, like this one's native to our Channel Islands, a really neat one, or Sonoma Coast. And most people think this is a fern. It's just, that's how kind of cool and deceiving some of these plants really are. And you can see just a wide selection of California natives. And even though this is kind of its downtime during the summer months, come back in the fall and what a beautiful show this thing puts on. Even at this point, you still see a lot of really neat things like your California fuchsias, lucernarias. You get many different colors, sizes, and shapes, and they're very easy to grow. And the maintenance on those things is very easy. Just kind of whack them down and off they go. Well, folks, I hope you got some cool little ideas here of our California natives. We do have a really big selection, a really nice description and showing of all of them here. You can come out and see them for yourself, see how big they get, where they come from, and where they grow in your garden.
To find the perfect plants for your garden, visit your local nursery. Well, that does it for this episode. Remember, you are the agent of change, and together we can create beautiful, climate-appropriate gardens. There are lots of resources online to help. Visit waterwisesb.org for tips or to view past episodes. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you can give us a call at 564-5311. I'm your host, Becky Davis, and keep it water-wise, Santa Barbara.